The metal trap snapped shut with a sharp clank and echoed through the silent forest. Jack looked up from his small fire and grabbed his rifle. He had set that trap for a wild claw beast, something with 4 legs and a bad temper. But the sound he heard after the trap closed, it wasn't an animal's cry, it was a voice, a girl's scream, high-pitched and full of pain and fear. Jack's heart beat faster as he moved through the thick alien trees. Leaves brushed against his arms as he pushed through the undergrowth. His boots crunched on soft moss, and strange glowing insects scattered from his path. He reached the trap and froze. Caught in the steel jaws was not a beast, but a figure. She was human-shaped, but something about her was off. Her skin was pale, almost silver, with a soft blue glow. Long white hair flowed down her back, tangled in vines and dirt. Her eyes snapped open, bright purple and full of terror. She looked right at Jack. He raised his rifle without thinking. She hissed in her strange language and backed against the trap. Wincing in pain, Jack didn't shoot, but he didn't lower the rifle either. He didn't know what she was, or why she looked so human. "I'm not going to hurt you," Jack said. Slowly, she tilted her head, as if trying to understand. Her arms were shaking, her legs bleeding from the trap's teeth. She said something in her alien tongue, soft and broken. Then, to his surprise, she spoke again in perfect English. "Please, don't eat me," Jack blinked. "What?" he asked. "You captured me," she said, her voice trembling. "That means you will eat me, right?" She looked so sure, so terrified. Jack lowered the rifle, confused. "Eat you?" "No, of course not," he said. "I thought I caught a beast." She didn't believe him. He could see it in her eyes. He stepped closer and she flinched. "I'm going to open the trap," he said, slowly crouching. "Hold still." She didn't move, but her body was stiff like stone. Jack pulled a lever and the trap snapped open. The girl let out a gasp and pulled her leg free. She tried to stand, but collapsed into the dirt. Jack caught her before she hit the ground. Her skin felt warm, too warm, like she was burning from the inside. "You need help," he muttered. "I have a cabin nearby. I'll take you there." "Why?" she whispered. "You already have me." Jack didn't answer. He picked her up gently and walked back to his camp. She didn't resist, but her eyes stayed open, watching him like a trapped animal. She thought he was some kind of predator, and maybe she had good reason. When they reached the cabin, Jack placed her on a soft pile of furs near the fire. She looked around the room's simple walls. Hunting gear, food rations. He gave her water, and she drank it fast like she hadn't had any in days. Then she spoke again, her voice soft. "You're human?" Jack nodded. "Name's Jack. I've been living here for a few years, trapping and hunting." He paused. "What about you?" She hesitated. "My name is Yari," she said. "I wasn't supposed to land here." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Land? So you're from a ship?" She nodded but didn't say more. Jack saw that her ankle was bleeding badly. He grabbed a small medkit and started treating the wound. Yari winced but didn't stop him. Her purple eyes stared into the fire. After a few minutes, she finally spoke. "You don't feel like a normal human," she said. Jack laughed a little. "I don't even know what a normal human feels like anymore." "No," she said seriously. "You feel different." She leaned closer and sniffed the air. Her eyes widened. "There's something inside you," she whispered. "Something old." Jack stood up, a chill running down his spine. "What are you talking about?" he asked. Yari didn't answer. Instead, she curled up on the floor and whispered something in her language. The fire flickered unnaturally, and outside, something howled in the distance. Something big, something angry. Jack stepped to the window and looked out into the dark forest. He could see shadows moving between the trees. He turned back to Yari, but she was already asleep or pretending to be. He didn't know what he had just brought into his home, but he had a feeling his simple life was over. The trap was meant for beasts, but it had caught something much more dangerous. The night was quiet, but not peaceful. The fire in Jack's cabin burned low. casting flickering shadows on the walls. Outside, the wind had stopped, the bugs had stopped, even the trees stood still. It was the kind of silence that pressed against your ears, heavy and wrong. Jack sat in his wooden chair, eyes on the strange girl sleeping near the fire. Yari's skin shimmered faintly in the low light. Her long white hair spread across the fur blankets. He had questions too many, but no answers. Who was she? What was she running from? And what did she mean by something inside you? He got up quietly and stepped outside, letting the cold air clear his thoughts. He scanned the forest line. No movement, no sound, but something felt off, like something was watching from the dark. He walked back in and froze. Yari was no longer lying down. She stood in the middle of the room, barefoot, eyes closed and whispering. Her voice was low and smooth, but the language was not human. It had rhythm, like an ancient chant. The flames of the fire stretched upward unnaturally, reaching toward her like they were alive. Jack didn't move, didn't breathe. Then she stopped speaking, and the fire instantly shrank back to normal. Yari opened her eyes and looked straight at Jack. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. Jack blinked, confused. "This is my home," he said. "You're the one who crashed here." "No," she whispered, shaking her head slowly. "I mean, you shouldn't be here, not on this planet." He narrowed his eyes. "What's that supposed to mean?" She looked at him carefully, like trying to measure something unseen. "There are things buried here," she said. "Old things, powerful things. And one of them is inside you." Jack stepped back slowly. "I think you hit your head." "Harder than I thought," he said with a forced laugh. But she didn't smile. "I saw it in a dream." She said, "Your name, your face, this place. I've seen it all, before I even came here." Jack's skin crawled. "That's not possible," he said. "You didn't even know me." Yari tilted her head. "Didn't I?" She asked, "Then why do I know your name is Jack Corellian?" "Born on Earth Outpost 17, former recon unit of the Terran Defense Corps." Jack's mouth opened slightly, but he said nothing. He had never told anyone those details. Not even the last colony station he passed through. That information was sealed after the war, after he disappeared. But she knew it. "How do you know that?" he asked, voice low and sharp. "I don't know how I know," Yari said, sounding scared now. "I shouldn't know. But your name was carved into my ship's control system, even before I launched. I thought it was a mistake, a glitch, but now I'm here, in your trap, in your home. Tell me, Jack, what exactly are you?" Jack's hands tightened into fists. "I'm just a man trying to live in peace," he said. "I left that war behind." "No, you didn't," she replied. "It followed you." Suddenly the walls of the cabin shook slightly, not from wind but from vibration, low and mechanical. Something heavy was approaching, and not on foot. Jack grabbed his rifle and ran to the window. In the distant sky, a faint red light blinked between the clouds. Yari joined him, her expression serious. "They've found me," she whispered. "The Thulvura Patrol." Jack looked at her. "Is that your people?" She nodded. "They think I'm a traitor," she said. "They'll kill me and anyone helping me." Jack took a deep breath. "I don't care what species you are," he said. "You were bleeding in my trap. You needed help. I'm not about to hand you over to a death squad." Yari stared at him, something strange flickering in her eyes. No human had ever said that to her before, in her world. Kindness was weakness, and weakness was punished. The ground trembled again. Stronger this time, Jack pulled open a hidden panel in the cabin floor, revealing a tunnel, "Old evac route," he said. "We use it to reach the hills." Yari hesitated. "You'd hide me?" she asked. Jack nodded. "Let's go." As they disappeared into the tunnel, the red light in the sky grew brighter. Above the trees, a massive alien dropship emerged from the clouds, scanning the forest with glowing sensors, and just before the hatch closed behind them, Yari whispered something Jack didn't hear clearly, but the forest did, and everything went silent again. The tunnel stretched deep under the forest, carved from old stone and reinforced with rusted steel. Jack held a small lantern, its glow bouncing off the damp walls. Behind him, Yari limped slightly, one hand on the wall, the other on her side. Neither of them spoke for a long time, but the silence said enough. It spoke of questions, danger, and something else neither of them wanted to admit: fear. Jack had used this escape route only once before, years ago, during a storm. Now it was their only chance. He didn't know who these Thalvra were, but they had arrived fast and they were hunting her, and maybe him too. They reached a small chamber near the tunnel's end. Jack opened the emergency hatch above, leading into an old observatory bunker. Long forgotten, dust covered the panels, and vines grew through the cracked walls. He helped Yari up, and she sat down, breathing hard. He moved to the main console, brushing off debris. The power was dead, but the manual logs might still work. He pressed a few buttons, and to his surprise, the console flickered to life. Jack stared at the screen. Frozen, his name flashed across the top. Subject: Corellian, Jack. Status: failed retrieval. Memory wipe incomplete. What is this? He whispered, reading the faded lines. Memory wipe? Failed retrieval? Yari slowly stood beside him, her eyes scanning the screen. I've seen something like this before, she said. On our warships, when we collect prisoners from forbidden zones. Jack turned to her. You knew about this? He asked. She shook her head quickly. No, not you, not this place, but the data. It's Thalvra protocol. Your name is in our systems, Jack, she added. But your species doesn't even have contact with us officially. Jack backed away from the screen, memories rising like smoke from a fire. Flashes of strange labs, bright lights, pain in his skull. He had always believed he walked away from the war, wounded and tired. But now he wasn't sure he walked away at all. Yari looked at him carefully. There's more to this, she said. You and I. We were never supposed to meet. What do you mean? He asked, voice low. She hesitated, then opened a compartment on her wristband, pulling out a small glowing shard. This is a memory crystal, she explained. It stores vision recordings, missions, orders, predictions. I was given this before I left our ship. Jack watched as she held the crystal over a reflective panel. A holographic image appeared in the air, flickering, blurry but real. It showed her face, Yari's, but younger, scared, and kneeling before a tall Thalvra leader. His voice echoed in the room. Speaking in their language, he said. Yari translated. You will go down to the surface, find the human subject, and confirm his status. If he remembers who he is, eliminate him. If not, lead him into activation. Jack clenched his fists. So you were sent to kill me? He asked quietly. Yari looked ashamed. I didn't know it was you, not until I saw your face, she said. They gave me fake data, told me I was tracking a deserter from an Earth colony. I thought I was protecting my people. And now? Jack asked. I think they lied to both of us, she whispered. Suddenly, the console behind them beeped an incoming signal. Jack turned and stared at the screen. It showed a red dot blinking, his exact location. They're tracking us, he said. Not by heat, not by sound, by you, Yari said. You've been tagged. She looked at the screen closer, then frowned. Wait. That's not just a signal. With a few taps, she unlocked a hidden message behind the signal. The letters formed into words Jack couldn't understand, but Yari did. Her face turned pale, her hands trembling. What is it? He asked. The message, she said slowly. It wasn't sent to the patrol. It was sent from your body. Jack took a step back. From me? Yari nodded. You're not just a man who ran from war, she said. You were part of something bigger. Something buried. Jack leaned against the wall, his mind spinning. Then why can't I remember? He whispered. Yari lowered her head. Because they took it from you, she said. Piece by piece. The hologram flickered one last time, revealing an old symbol, half human, Half alien, Yari stepped closer and touched it, and it pulsed with light. Then it glowed brighter in Jack's chest, even through his shirt. He looked down and saw a faint blue light beneath his skin. Yari gasped. "It's already waking up." A rumble shook the floor beneath them, and they both looked up, above. Engines roared, heavily armed dropships descending fast. The hunters were here. Yari looked at Jack, eyes wide. "We don't have much time," she said. "Do you trust me?" Jack nodded slowly. "I don't have a choice." And as they ran for the back exit of the bunker, the galaxy's plan began to unravel, because two people who were never meant to meet just did. The sky wasn't supposed to bleed, but tonight it did. Jack and Yari stood on a ridge above the valley, both staring at the horizon. Dark clouds swirled overhead like smoke caught in fire, and through the heavy gray sky came burning streaks of red dropships, hundreds of them. They weren't just searching anymore, they were preparing for war. Jack gritted his teeth as the first wave descended. Searchlights from the ships swept over the forest, turning night into flashing day. The sound was like thunder, constant and angry. Yari's cloak flapped in the wind behind her as she stared at her people's ships. "They're not here just for me anymore," she said, voice low. Jack turned toward her. "What do you mean?" "They think you're active," she replied, "that the weapon inside you has awakened." Jack looked at his chest. That faint glow under his skin hadn't gone away since the bunker. He could feel it like something alive, pulsing, connected to every part of him. "I'm not a weapon," he said, trying to sound certain. Yari didn't answer. She looked toward the largest ship above the clouds, its wings wide and glowing red beneath. "That's the Herald," she whispered. "It only comes when the Emperor wants something personally destroyed." Jack sighed. "So I guess talking is off the table." Yari stepped forward, pulling a small circular device from her belt. She tapped it, and a shimmer of light wrapped around both of them. "Invisibility cloak," she said. "But only for a few minutes." Jack looked at her. "You sure you want to help me?" he asked. "You were sent here to spy on me, maybe even kill me." "I know," she replied. "And I've made my choice. They lied to me about you, about everything. If they're willing to burn this planet to erase you, then maybe you're more important than they ever told us." They ran through the trees, covered by the cloak. As the dropships landed behind them, metal feet stomped into the dirt. Soldiers in black armor spread out in squads, scanning the forest. Jack led them toward a cave he remembered from his first years on this world. It wasn't just a cave, it was a tunnel, deep and untouched, leading into the planet's crust. Inside, the walls shimmered with faint blue lines, natural energy veins. Yari touched one, and her eyes widened. "This isn't just rock," she said. "This is crystal tech." "Crystal what?" Jack asked. "Ancient energy stone," she replied. "Used by the first civilizations. We thought it was extinct." Jack moved deeper into the tunnel and found something buried under dirt and rock. It was metal, but smooth and curved, not human design. He brushed the dust off and saw symbols that pulsed faintly when he touched them. Suddenly, the glow in his chest answered back, growing stronger. "Jack," Yari whispered, "you're linked to this." Before he could speak, the metal door opened on its own, slow and heavy. Inside was a room filled with dim lights, old consoles, and something floating in the center, a black sphere humming with energy. Jack stepped forward, drawn to it. "What is it?" he asked. "It's a seed core," Yari said, barely breathing. "A device used to power and grow hybrid weapons, living weapons." Jack's heart pounded. He reached out and the sphere pulsed. Floating toward him slowly, it hovered just above his hands, then melted into his skin like light soaking into water. His body jolted. He fell to his knees, gasping, visions crashing through his head. He saw rows of alien labs, human children in tanks, Thalvra scientists debating. He saw his own younger face strapped to a chair, injected with something glowing blue. He saw soldiers cheering, then screaming, then fire. Then everything stopped. Yari knelt beside him, holding his shoulder. "You saw it. The truth." Jack stood up slowly, breathing hard. They made me, he whispered. I'm not just a soldier, I was built. Yari looked at him carefully. Yes, but you're more than they ever wanted you to be. Outside, an explosion shook the earth, and red light filled the sky. The cave entrance collapsed from the blast, rocks falling like rain. Yari touched the wall again, and blue light opened a new path deeper inside. We have to go, she said. They'll destroy the entire valley to bury this secret. As they ran down the glowing tunnel, something shifted inside Jack. He didn't feel like prey anymore. He felt aware. His mind was clearer, faster, stronger. He could hear the soldiers outside before they even landed. He could feel the cave's energy like it was part of him. Yari, he said calmly, if I really am what they fear. She looked at him, then? She asked. Jack's eyes glowed faintly as the walls responded to his presence, lights pulsing faster. Then I'm done running, he said. Next time, they run from me. The tunnel ended in silence, not the natural kind, but the heavy, humming quiet of something ancient, hidden, and still alive. Jack and Yari stepped into a massive underground chamber, round, metallic, and glowing with faded blue light. Walls pulsed gently, as if the place itself was breathing. Jack looked around slowly. What is this place? He asked. Yari stared at the ceiling, where ancient writing circled a giant metal disc. It's a vault, she whispered. A memory vault. From the First War. They walked deeper into the chamber, and suddenly the lights brightened. Soft hissing sounds echoed around them as machines powered up for the first time in decades. Screens turned on, panels opened, and something began. Scanning Jack from head to toe, he stepped back, ready to shoot, but Yari held up a hand. It's not a weapon, she said. It's identifying you. A soft voice filled the air, calm, neutral, and not fully human. Welcome back, subject. Corellian 9, it said. Verification complete. Hybrid integrity. 87%. Jack blinked. Subject. Corellian 9? He repeated. Yari's face was pale. You're not just a hybrid, she said. You're part of a series. The floor lit up beneath Jack's feet, revealing a hidden platform. It rose slowly, carrying both of them to an upper level. And there, behind glass walls, was the truth, rows and rows of pods. Some shattered, some still glowing. Inside were bodies, human and alien mixes. Some young, some barely formed. Yari covered her mouth. This is where they made you. Jack stared, unable to look away. Each pod had a nameplate, and he found his own, Corellian 9. But beside it were others, Corellian 1 through 8, and all were marked terminated. He clenched his fists. They killed the others, he said, voice tight. Why leave me alive? Because you worked, Yari said. You were stable. Jack looked at her. So I'm a mistake they decided to keep? No, she said, stepping closer. You were a weapon they couldn't control, so they erased your memories and dropped you here to see what you'd become on your own. A flash of rage surged through Jack. All his years alone, thinking he was just a survivor, a hunter, but he had been part of something twisted, buried under lies. The I voice returned. Facility status compromised. Hostile forces detected above ground. Initiating memory core release. In the center of the room, a large orb rose from the floor, glowing brighter than anything else in the chamber. Yari looked at Jack. That's your past, she said. All of it. Jack stepped forward and placed his hand on it. The orb pulsed, and then everything changed. His vision exploded into images, blinding flashes of training, combat, screaming scientists, firestorms on alien planets. He saw himself at different ages, fighting, killing, being tested like a lab animal. He saw Yari too, not her exactly, but her people, the Thalvara, watching his progress from a distance, recording his life without his knowledge. He fell to his knees, gasping. Yari caught him, her hand warm on his back. They watched me like an experiment, Jack said through gritted teeth. They never let me go. They just changed the cage. Suddenly, alarms blared through the vault. Intruders breaching lower chamber, the AI said. Security systems offline. Jack stood up, eyes glowing faint blue again. We need to leave, he said. Now Yari moved to a control panel and activated a side exit tunnel. But before they could enter, a section of the vault wall exploded inward. 3 black armored soldiers stepped through the smoke. Weapons drawn, red visors glowing, Jack raised his hand. The light from his palm blasted outward like a shockwave, slamming the soldiers back into the wall. Yari's eyes widened. You didn't even touch them, she said, stunned. Jack looked at his hand, still pulsing with energy. I don't think I have to anymore. More soldiers were coming fast. Jack grabbed Yari's hand and pulled her into the side tunnel. As they ran, the vault sealed itself behind them, the last light fading into darkness. They emerged into an overgrown clearing, moonlight shining through thick clouds. In the distance, the Thalvara ships floated above the forest like ghosts. Silent and massive, Yari turned to Jack. You know what this means now, she said. They're going to erase this whole forest, cover up the lab. You're past everything. Jack nodded slowly. Then we don't hide, he said. We go up there and make them remember who I am. Asterisk. The ship was dead, buried under roots and vines for what felt like centuries, but Jack's touch brought it back to life. One glowing handprint on the hull, and the engine started humming again. The trees around them trembled as energy surged beneath the forest floor. This isn't human tech, Yari whispered, stepping back as the craft unfolded itself. The wings stretched out, the glass cockpit cleared of dust. No, Jack said, eyes glowing faintly blue. But I think it's mine. He walked up the ramp as if he had done it 1,000 times. The lights inside responded to his presence, turning on one by one. The pilot's seat adjusted to his frame, and the console read his name before he even sat down. Corellian 9. Flight access granted. Yari climbed in behind him, still trying to understand what she was seeing. This ship. It's not just old, it's illegal, she said. Banned across all Thalvara systems. Jack stared through the canopy at the sky. Then it's exactly what we need, he said. Because I'm done running. Outside, more Thalvara dropships began to descend, surrounding the area. Soldiers in black armor moved in from every direction, scanning for signs of life. But they were too late. With a deep, rumbling roar, the buried ship lifted off the ground. Dust and leaves flew in every direction as the engines screamed to life. Then like a shot it blasted into the sky. The red clouds opened around them, light flashing past the cockpit. Yari clutched the edge of the chair, trying to stay upright. This isn't just fast, she said, shouting over the wind inside the cabin. This is a war vessel. Jack didn't answer. He was locked into the ship's neural interface, feeling every part of the craft like it was part of his own body. He turned hard to the left, just in time to avoid a beam from a patrol ship. Firing from orbit. We've got company, he said calmly. 3 Thalvara fighters were already in pursuit, their engines glowing like fireflies. Standard intercept formation, Yari said quickly. They'll try to trap us between flanks. Let them try, Jack muttered, pulling back on the controls. The ship responded, instantly flipping in midair and diving between the 2 fighters. Yari's eyes widened. No one flies like that, not even elite pilots. I'm not flying, Jack said. I'm remembering. The chase shot into space, leaving the atmosphere in a trail of heat and fire. The stars opened before them, bright, wide, and filled with danger. But Jack felt calm, for the first time. His mind was clear. The voices, the memories, the instincts, they were all syncing with the ship. The fighters followed, firing plasma rounds that lit up the dark. Jack twisted between the blasts, cutting engines, then reactivating them in a single heartbeat. One enemy ship overshot him. Jack flipped under it and fired. A clean shot struck the rear engine, and the fighter exploded into a silent burst of red light. Who taught you this? Yari asked, barely able to believe her eyes. Jack grinned. No one, he said. They built it into me. The other two fighters pulled back, sending out a signal to the main fleet. Suddenly, a massive cruiser entered orbit above them, its size blotting out part of the starfield. That's the High Command's flagship. Yari said in shock. They sent the judgment. Jack's face darkened. Then I'll give them something to judge. He pushed the ship forward, heading straight for the cruiser. Yari grabbed his arm. Are you crazy? We can't take on a ship that size alone. We're not alone, Jack replied, and pressed a symbol glowing on the console. The forest world below them answered hidden satellites, buried drones, and long-sleeping AI cores activated. Lights began rising from the planet's surface, dozens of old machines built for war, now flying to meet their commander. Yari stared at the wave of forgotten weapons rising behind them. These are all connected to you, Jack nodded. They weren't just testing me, he said. They were preparing me. As the Judgment cruiser opened its massive hangars, ready to launch hundreds of interceptors, Jack's fleet of old world weapons surged forward. Laser fire lit up the stars, and explosions painted the darkness in color. Jack flew between debris and enemies, weaving like wind through steel. The enemy ships couldn't keep up, not with him, not with the machines that followed his will. Yari leaned forward, looking at him differently now. You're not just a hybrid, she said softly. You're a command unit, a living battle system. Jack didn't smile. I was made for war, he said, but I'm choosing what to fight for now. The Judgment cruiser charged its main cannon, aiming for the planet below, ready to erase everything. Jack stared at it through the cockpit and whispered, not this time. He directed all drones toward the cannon, forming a shield of fire and light as the cannon fired. The explosion was caught mid-space, contained by a sacrifice of dozens of defense drones. The blast never reached the planet. Yari sat in silence, watching the impossible happen. And Jack, half man, half weapon, sat calm in his seat as his old life burned behind them. He didn't just survive the stars, he ruled them. The throne room of the Thalvara High Command was silent, not because there was peace, but because everyone was holding their breath. Dozens of alien nobles in silver armor lined the hall. Above them, holographic war maps flickered in red, showing Earth, its colonies, and Jack's stolen fleet surrounding their cruiser. And in the middle of it all stood Jack Corellian alone, unarmed, glowing faintly from within. The enemy's greatest weapon, once forgotten, now standing face to face with his makers. Beside him walked Yari, her white hair tied back, her steps firm. She had walked this chamber once before under orders, in silence, as a servant of the Empire. But now, she walked as something else, something stronger. The Supreme Warden of the Thalvara rose from his seat at the far end, his black robes flowing like smoke. You should not exist, he said, voice cold. You are an echo of a mistake, a ghost from a war we erased. Jack didn't flinch. Funny, he said. I could say the same about your throne. Gasps echoed in the chamber, but the warden only narrowed his eyes. You come here thinking we will surrender to one runaway hybrid and a traitor? No, Jack replied. I came to offer a choice. He stepped forward slowly, the lights of the room dimming around him as the energy in his body hummed louder. Surrender your purge program, delete the experiment logs, and release every hidden subject you ever locked away. Or, the warden asked, smirking. Or, Jack said calmly, I turn your palace into scrap metal. Yari stepped beside him and spoke clearly. This isn't just about Jack, she said, looking at her own people. It's about every life we played with, every rule we broke, and every lie we told ourselves to justify it. We created him, yes, but now he stands for something we've forgotten. Compassion. The room grew colder. Another commander stood up, a taller alien with a long scar across his face. You were sent to spy on him, he hissed. At Yari, you were programmed to control him, not protect him. Yari didn't blink. I disobeyed, she said. I saw the human heart beneath the weapon, and I chose it. The nobles began to argue, voices rising across the room. Jack stood silent, letting them talk, letting them see their own fear. Then suddenly, a single command echoed through the room. Stand down. It came from the far wall where a massive HFY terminal flickered to life. The face of an ancient program, known as Oracle, appeared, its voice as old as the war itself. Subject Corellian 9 has achieved full resonance, the AI said. All systems acknowledge him as the rightful controller of the Arc-class weapons. The chamber froze, because the AI had spoken a law no one could override, not the warden, not the council, not even the emperor himself. Jack raised his hand, and in orbit, thousands of dormant ships powered up at once. Their engines hummed, their weapons charged, but none of them fired. I don't want war, Jack said. But I won't let you erase what I am anymore. The warden looked at him with slow, cold hatred. You've won this day, he said. But you'll never be one of us. Jack smiled, not in joy, but in understanding. I was never supposed to be, he said. But I'm still human enough to offer peace. He turned to Yari. She nodded without words, standing taller than she ever had. Once she had bowed in this very room, afraid and obedient. Now she stood as a shield for the one she was told to destroy. As they walked out of the throne room, past stunned guards and silent nobles, the sky outside the station changed. The red warning lights faded. The command fleet pulled back, and one by one, the war machines powered down, not defeated, but freed. Later, in the quiet of their ship, Jack stared at the stars. Yari sat beside him, leaning back in the co-pilot's chair, eyes half closed. I was sent to spy, she whispered. But I found something I never expected. Jack looked at her. What's that? She smiled softly. Hope. The stars stretched ahead, endless and unknown, and behind them, two broken empires quietly began to heal, because sometimes the weapon doesn't destroy the world, it saves it, and sometimes the spy becomes the shield.